So everyone grab seat, let's get this started.
You can watch YouTube videos together with live sharing from Google Duo, so you can share more laughs, learn new skills.
Thank you everyone for coming. My name is John Barnato. We have some guests here. So my name is John Barnato. I am the team leader here at Sacramento. So thank you for coming. I don't want to take a lot of your time. I just want to introduce Ryan Lundquist, one of our preeminent real estate appraisers in the area. He does a great blog. If you haven't seen it, you should read that religiously. And we're happy to have him to give our big shifting market, big update, everything you know and don't want to know about our local real estate market. And we're happy to have him here. So everyone give him a good round of applause.
Well, that was fast.
Yeah, I was like, you're the show. You're the show. They don't care about me.
Well, hey, thanks. It's an honor to be here today, and I'm hoping by the time that you leave here that your brain is just hurting. You're thinking, oh no, that was so much information, but I want it to be empowering for you. Okay, I know in real estate these days, it's sort of like, we see a lot of stats that aren't so sexy. There's some stats that look very normal, but I think some people are beginning to think, can I hold on, and can I make it? And so, you have a situation where is this working? You guys need to, okay. You have a situation where you're beginning to look at hot dog on a stick and Starbucks and a state job, and you're like, should I begin to make lemonade or be the person that bounces? Well, maybe some of you are like, maybe I need to start. No, don't do that. Okay, keep your clothes on. Stay off the pole. Okay. You guys are looking up right now. Realtor. No, don't do that. So no, but seriously, a lot of people I think are beginning to go, I make it. And what I want this to be is to be really honest time to say what the market's doing. And I want you to leave encouraged and empowered, okay, to be like, I can make it in this market, okay? Now, there's a lot of narratives today, right? And so we have, everything is normal, right? Is it, you heard that? Or we're going to have a soft landing, right? Have you heard that one? The market is rebalancing. It's stabilizing, or we'll lose value gains during the pandemic. Has anyone heard that one? If the market goes down, we're just going to wipe away the last couple of years, or we're going to crash and burn. Has anyone heard that? It's going to be worse than 2007. The market will go up 5 more years, like Dave Ramsey says, right? Or we're all going to die. Right? So there's a lot of narratives. I want to sift through the pie and say, what's the market doing? What's the good, the bad, the ugly, and how to be empowered? So, you guys ready to jump in?
Yeah.
So, I think it's, really what's on the menu right now is uncertainty salad. And so, we're living in the midst of change. And I think sometimes after changes happen, everyone's like, oh, well, that was so obvious if this was going to happen right here with the economy, with the housing market. When you're in the middle of it, there's uncertainty. You're like, where's this going? Okay, and that's just where we're at. We have to do that. That's okay. We don't always know the future. Some buyers are feeling more hopeful, though. Have you noticed some buyers getting into contract? Not everyone is like, oh my, where's this going? Some buyers have some hope. Okay, some buyers are kind of nervous, like Peloton lady, right? Some buyers are sitting out of the market, right? Have you noticed that? Maybe some in your book of business who thought, I was going to shop for a home, but now I'm not, right? And then, other people are just hoping that the housing market is going to right? They're salivating and they're going, oh, I can't wait. It's going to be beautiful. And it's just like, man, this represents a lot of real people who are working and, it's just, I don't know. I don't get it sometimes. But the reality is temperature is always changing. And what I want to first today is what's normal, what's not. That's the question of the power, all right? And so here's the X factor. Anyone here that mortgage rates went up? Yeah. No. Okay. So for a long time, you remember the narrative was that nothing can change this market. It's so hot, demographics, millennials have come of age, and everything is beautiful. And then all of a sudden, rates go up and say, hold my beer, and the market completely changed. right? So here you have almost doubling. But here up here, I see the temperature can change by the week. And so what would happen in our market if rates went down to 4.5%? Increased demand. Everyone's like, all right, that would bring more buyers out. If rates go up to 6.5%, what do you think happens? Buyers step aside. Okay, and so it's sort of a week-by-week thing where we're watching the market. But here's sort of an image put out from Redfin. The average mortgage payment was $1,700 at the beginning of the year, and now, okay. And so you see this $600 change. It's changed the market very, very quickly. And so a lot of people are like, man, what are you complaining about? Rates are still, historically low. It's very true. But after 11 years of price growth, I would simply say, go to a mortgage calculator, plug in the current value, and the current rate at 5.5%, and you're going to be surprised what the payment is. Okay, but the reality is it's not about avocado toast anymore, right? For a while, the narrative was like, hey man, stop buying avocado toast so you can afford a house, and it's like you're gonna have to cut back on 50 to 70 pieces of avocado toast per month. Hopefully, you're not eating that much. I'm trying to cut down on carbs, not very successfully, but we're in a market way beyond this. Okay, so mortgage applications have been dropping. And a lot of people are saying, what we're going to see is a rebound of buyers rushing to the market because mortgage rates, they have dropped a little bit lately. And then, yesterday they rebounded again. It's like a game of ping pong. But here's the deal. We'll notice if buyers come back to the market a bit if mortgage applications increase. Okay? But otherwise, here's the trend. Fewer mortgage applications lately leads to fewer pending contracts, which leads to fewer closed sales. Real estate expert right here. Don't forget the T. So the market has been going really fast. Okay, it's like it was going 150 miles per hour. Okay, and first of all, if you have this on your license plate, people are going to think you're a douchebag. Probably are. No, just kidding. No, I'm being serious. Talk to John after you're ended. But the market is going 150 miles per hour. And now it's like it's going the speed limit or even less. And so here's what I want to show you, though. This is the killer image to talk to your sellers about. This is the median price every single year. And this is 2021 in orange from January to December. And here's this line up here, 2022. Do you see how at the beginning of the year we were up 17% from last year? 11.5, 6, and 7. So do you see how these two lines are squeezing closer together? So we're no longer in a market where we're up 15, 20%, super sexy, record-breaking stats. It's more like, hey, price growth is slowing down. It's like that, whatever kind of car this is. I don't know. I have no idea. Ferrari, we'll say. Correct me later. It's no longer going 150 miles per hour. Does that make sense? Okay, that's the message. Share this with your sellers, but also share this with your buyers. It's good news, right? So we're still up from last year, but there's no mistaking, price growth is slow. Here's what the trend looks the same in Sacramento County and in Placer County. Okay. Now, should prices be going down right now for the time of year? Yes. The answer is yes. Okay. In real estate, sometimes it's like prices are always going up. That's all they've ever done besides 2000. It's like, no, that's not true. They go up for about half the year, and then they soften for the second. Okay. What we'll identify in coming months is what we're seeing right now. Is it softening or is it not? Okay. Time will tell. Now, what are these numbers? Does anyone know? Because there's a little bit of hope here. This is FHA percentage of sales from July to August 2nd last year compared to July, August 2nd this year. Now, there's not that much of a difference, but you can see in the stats we're getting just a little bit more with FHA buyers. And so one of the things I want to encourage you to do is obsess over who is buying in this market. Anytime an agent posts on Facebook, whatever social platform, and they talk about a sale that's happened, ask them who is the buyer. Okay, look it up in tax records. What do they use for financing? Because that's clues as to who is playing the market. Is it investors? Is it first-time buyers? But FHA is poised to maybe grow a little. Okay, is that encouraging news? You can actually get into contract with FHA. But here's mortgage rates and then sellers. Sellers are kind of behind the trend. This whole tornado's been happening. Background, they're just chilling, mowing their lawn, and catch them up to speed, right? Don't get fixated on headlines from the past. But on a serious note, does anyone eat Hot Pockets? Or did you used to in college? Okay, I was like more of a top ramen guy, but Hot Pockets had their place in my world. But here's how the market is. Okay, the market's like a hot pocket. And what happens if you have a hot pocket and you take it out of the microwave too early? By the way, you can't do it stove. If you're going to eat a hot pocket, do the microwave. Okay, pro tip. But what happens if you take it out too early? Some spots are really cold, right? Some spots are lukewarm. Some spots might be blazing, and that's exactly what housing feels like. Okay, where the dynamic and the trend is just going to feel different by neighborhood and price range. It's like this hot pocket. Okay, here's what I mean. There are a bunch of orange dots here. This is ridiculous. But these are sales, closed sales in July. Now here's the line at 0%. And so any of these dots sold above this line, they sold above the original list price. Okay, and then these lines below sold below the original list price. And so sometimes people are like, the market is doing one thing, everything's collapsing, and then you look at the stats and go, there are so many different stories here. Okay. Now, when I talk about the market slowing, without fail, an agent almost always says, "Oh, but I just had a situation with 8 offers, and we went above asking by $300 trillion, and the market's really hot." That's wonderful. I'm talking about the whole entire forest. Here's what's happening in the forest, and this is a tree that had 8 offers. Okay. So sometimes we got to distinguish between what's happening with the trees and the forest, but there can be a lot of different stories. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So, and dispel that myth, I find when I'm on Twitter, people are really surprised that there's actually properties selling above this price. And I'll show you specifically what's normal. Now, here's days on market. How long is it taking you to get into contract, by the way? Throw out any numbers. You're like, contract, what's that? It's not a trick question, by the way. 25 days.
No, 40.
40. Okay, there's 2 people that are selling. You guys are doing really well, right? Okay, so on average in June, these are June closed sales in Sacramento County. They took 20 days to get into contract. Now, June sales, when did they get into, July, they got into contract in June. Okay, this really tells us about what the market was like in June. But sales are pending since July. What do we notice? 6 more days. And then what do we notice about actives? A lot more time. Okay, so here's the pro tip. Look at closed sales, but make sure that your sellers are seeing in the market. We see market change and listings. We don't want to get stuck on the sexiest stats possible. We want to go what's moving right now, because this is the only thing that matters for your pricing. What's getting into contract, okay? Now here's a line or a graph that I want to unpack. Now are you guys with me? It's kind of quiet here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This
We're soaking it up.
Yeah, all
woo, soak it up. So this is, I think, a really powerful visual, and I want to talk about there's some sharp change happening. Okay, so this weekly line up here, this is a days on market, the average days on market for 4 years before the pandemic, 2016 to 2019. Stats got weird after, forget those stats. Okay, so January to December. In January, it's 40-something days, and you see how for the next few months, it takes less time to sell until about July, and then it takes longer to sell. So there's this rhythm to the market. The market heats up, it takes less time to sell, and then the market softens, and it takes longer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so here's black line 2022. We were way below normal, and then the market shifted, and then we're almost back to very normal levels. This is my projection for August, 26 days. It's based on pendings right now. It could actually be a little bit higher, but you see how we're starting to flirt with kind of normal levels? But it feels really weird because it's like, how come it's not taking 12 days to sell? 12 days is like, that shouldn't have been happening, okay? And so, but look at this, by the end of the year, between now and the end of the year, 24 to 39 days, it should take about 2 weeks long to out. Okay, so prepare your sellers. So by the end of the year, it should take anywhere from probably 14 to 20 days longer than last year at the same time. Okay, here's a different way to look at it. A bunch of squiggly lines. Here's that red line. Here we are up here. We basically surpassed 2007 levels, and we're going to kind of keep inching up. Okay, someone on Facebook, I remember last month, they were like, it's going to take 90 days to sell by December. We're all going down. And I'm like, there's no way that that's going to happen. 90 days, like, guys, that's false. Okay, false prophet, prophet status revoked. Don't listen to this. You can't see this visual for some reason, so we're going to skip that sucker. But sellers are finally negotiating a bit more with buyers. What are you finding your sellers doing? What are they giving to buyers?
Credits.
Repairs, rate buy downs, price reductions. Yeah, like what do you want, oh special buyer? You know, we have one of you, right? So, and then buyers are also, you know, looking and going, no, I won't waive my contingency. You know, so sellers are like, give us your firstborn child, and you know, pay us $30,000 for asking. Then you know that's what we used to be able to do, and they just can't do that anymore because buyers are like, we're not having it, right? Is that okay? I'm not going to get in trouble for okay, so
We approve it.
properties last month sold 2% below the list price on average. So let me ask you, is that normal or is it not?
Normal compared to what?
Normal compared to before the pandemic. Yes. Okay. So properties, look, last month in July sold just about 2% lower. That's the average. Okay. There's some that sold way more, some that sold less. That's the average. But look at last year, it was 3% above. And this line last year for about 17 months went above the list price. And we have this weird dynamic where these should have been way down here. And so in this regard, we're actually kind of where we should be. But I think sometimes we're so used to stats on steroids that when I share this image and talk about properties on average sold 2% below, agents are often, but prices are still up from last year. I'm like, look, this doesn't mean that the market's crashing. We're actually back to normal in that. Okay? Please don't go on social media and say that Ryan said the market's normal. I did not say that. I'll show you some slides in a bit. But that stat is normal. Okay. On average, last month, buyers paid $12,536 below list price. Okay. On average. Okay. Now, here's the deal. I would share this with sellers to have sellers really understand that we're in a different environment. I would probably be careful about sharing this with buyers because they're going to look at the list price and go minus $12,536. This one's already underpriced. You can't do that. Okay. This isn't going to apply to every property. That's the average. Okay. But housing temperature, right? Did anyone watch Stranger Things? Okay. I slept through most of it. I got episode 1 and in the last one. I'm to that stage in life. I can't stay asleep or I can't stay awake. But let me ask you this. What's normal? What percentage of sales should be selling below the list price, below the original list price? Right now, this time of year, how many properties should be selling below? Does anyone have a percentage? What is normal? I know it's such an obscure question. You're like, well, I've been thinking about this.
55%.
Okay, let me show you. And let me explain this visual. I'm going to be updating these every month, and I want you to really follow these. And if they fall flat, that's fine. I'll throw them away. I think these are actually really powerful. Nobody else is putting out stats like this. I think this is powerful context. This red line up here is the percentage of properties by January to December that is sold below the original list price. So you see the market heats up and we start to see fewer properties selling below the list price. That makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. And then for the second half of the year, the market, softens. And so we see more properties selling below. Okay, 2021 in orange. Do you see this crazy line, how disconnected it was from the 4-year pre-pandemic average? And so in July last year, where are we at? 19% of sales sold below the list price. 19, and it should have been, what was it up here, the average? About 47%. And so we're like way, way different. But do you see this black line, 2022? And we've had this sharp change, so all of a sudden we're back to we went market on steroids to back to normal in like 3 months. So crazy, crazy change, okay? That's what doubling mortgage rates will do. But look, so last month, 50% of sales sold below the list price. Okay, statistically, that's actually very normal. Not saying it's a normal market, but that's true. Sales selling above the list price, here's a similar dynamic. Around this time of year, we should be seeing about 38% of sales selling above the list price. Look at last year, though, 74% of sales sold above the list price. Literally twice as many sales were selling above the list price. But last year, guys, I was sharing stats, and I would share a stat like this. I swear, I got so many emails, people arguing with me. They're like, no way, that stat is 100%, everything is going above. And I'm like, do we not realize how crazy this stat is? Yeah. This stat was nuts, okay? But you see, again, a sharp change. And so that's actually a good thing. That's what we want to see. And the question is, what will this line do in coming time? I think it's going to dip below all. it's sort of, but we'll see. Now here's the question, and a pro tip for talking to your sellers. Okay, what percentage of homes sell at the list price exactly? Okay, and I'm pulling from 4 years before the pandemic. Like, what is normal? What percentage would you guess sell at exactly the list price? What's that? 10. Okay, a little bit above 10. 13. Yeah, just about 14%. And so here's the thing that you want to say to your seller. Look, 86% of the time, literally in our market, properties do not end up at the list price. Do not get stuck at the list price. They go up or they go down, and in this market, it's more likely probably to be lower because of the climate. And so is that a powerful stat, or am I just a nerd? Okay, maybe both. Okay, so, and from this point forward, you might see some familiar faces. So iBuyers own 420 properties in Sacramento. And here's what they own. Opendoor is the big player in town. And I want to show you guys a few different, I think some cool stats. And I don't know, anyone here is about Opendoor this week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it was on Instagram a few times from agents. So here's Redfin. About 69% of what they own is on the market. Zillow, they barely own anything now, but look at Opendoor. 86% of what they have, of what they own, is either listed for sale or pending. That's actually a really impressive stat. If you own 354 properties, do you think you would have 86% listed? I mean, that's impressive. Okay, let's be objective. OfferPad only own 9, but they have about 80 acquisitions in process the last time I talked to them. But here's an interesting stat. Thank you, Jenny. 83% of Opendoor homes on MLS are active. 17% are pending. So they have 305 listings, and only about 50 are in contract. And so I'm watching this closely. I'm not trying to throw shade on anyone, but I'm saying that you look at the iBuyer model, and you can see that here's a company that's pricing, and that we're going to see sort of how this goes over time. You have to adapt though when the market changes. But is that interesting? Yeah, I think it's totally interesting. Okay, so yeah, hey, you shouldn't have taken a selfie while working out. So we had less than 1 month housing supply for 22 months in a row, 23 months in a row in Sacramento. But here's what we're seeing right now. We've seen a spike over the past few months. And right now, this number, I have it at 2.38 this week. It's going to be somewhere between 2.3 and 2.5. We'll have the final number next week. But it's an astonishing uptick, right? So, but I find that sometimes people, when they look at this number, they're like, bro, stop, making a big deal out of 2 months of supply because normal is 5 to 6 months. So we've got so much to go. And so I ask you, is that normal, 5 to 6 months? No. No is actually the right answer, but I would guess that a lot of people were like, but that's what, all these real estate graphics from this company, this marketing company, that's what they say. Let me show you, it's actually not normal, okay, to have 5 to 6 months. Here's where we're at right now, and when you look back from 2014 onward, doesn't this start to look like it's kind of a normalish supply, even bordering on a little higher? And so what we've got to do is we've got to recognize that our market in Sacramento is local. What's happening nationally might not be anything else. Okay, here's what I mean. This visual is really cool. It's from John Burns Real Estate Consulting. And these black dots are where they say supply was. Now, in Sacramento, they had us about 1 month. This is from May. Okay, so we're actually in this color here. But when you look at the green color, they would say healthy price appreciation between 0 and 1.6 months. And I agree with that. In our market, we're going gangbusters when we're at that level. But they would say mixed results between about 1.6 to 3.2. Would you say that you're experiencing mixed results by neighborhood right now? Absolutely. And so some people are like, no, 6 months is normal. I'm like, no, could you imagine more than doubling inventory? It would be, doing the free fall. Okay. And then they would say in Sacramento, unhealthy price depreciation. Prices are going down around 3.2 months. But notice this. Look at Orlando up here. They would say prices go down at 6 months. Okay. Or look at this. Charlotte. Look at Charlotte. It's off the charts. You can have a year supply, and it's like, when do they decline? I don't know. They need to expand their chart. But do you see how markets? But do you see how markets across the country are different? And so there's that myth. People say that 5 to 6 months of supply is normal. I'm like, great, normal for what? You know, or like, this is normal for families. Great, which families, right? It's the same dynamic here, okay? Here's a different way to show that. You guys can check that out. I'll get the PDF to the office later, and then they can email it. And then if you need to post any of these images online, totally fine. But here's my question. We have 4,000 listings today. How in the world do we have that many listings? Okay, because when you look at this blue line through the years, these are new listings. Do you see what happens? The first part of the year, there's more new listings, and then fewer listings, more, less, more. But do you see during the pandemic how we're missing all these new listings? Okay, all of this right there. And so how in the world do we have 4,000 listings when we haven't had that many new listings happening? What is happening?
Not as many pending.
Yeah.
Not as many.
Bingo. Okay. Yeah, it's not that sellers have rushed the market. Some people are like, sellers are finally listing. No, they're not. What we're seeing is fewer pendings. Okay. And so the elephant in the room is fewer pending contracts. All right. And let me show you what this looks like. This is from Redfin. Here's a great link. Recommend bookmarking this. And then they have weekly stats for the Sacramento region, Sac County, or maybe someone has questions about, you know, Tampa, Florida, or different markets. And you could very quickly search by area or county. And I didn't include it up here. There's listings and price reductions. It's just a cool tool. Okay, but you look at listings 2022 in black, they're a little bit down actually from the orange last year. Not a lot. But you look at pendings in black and they're way down from orange, right? Does anyone know what percentage pendings were down last month in July in the whole region?
25.
More than 25. 33. Okay. Somewhere between 30 to 33%. Okay, and so, you know, that's a big deal. We're seeing basically 30 to 33% of buyers not playing the market. On the positive side, about 70% of the market is alive and active. That's probably the part to focus on, being in sales position. Here's what pendings look like in black in 2022 compared to the normal trend. This is January through December, and pendings kind of peak out, you know, around mid-year and then go down. But, you know, we're missing a lot. So here's a hyper look. How many pendings have we missed over the past few months? Does anyone know? This is like one of those not very sexy stats. Probably to share with your sellers, okay? But you're not going to like lead with this in your email newsletter, probably. Maybe you will. 2,500, okay? So it's a substantial amount. It's nothing to balk at. You know, we can't sugarcoat this. There's just all this misinterest. Now, we should see fewer pendings throughout the course of the year. It's normal to see, you know, kind of go down as the year. Okay, what happens with mortgage rates? Okay, we see more pendings most likely if rates dip substantially, but if rates keep going up, then we'll see this pullback. Okay, we're sort of in that uncertainty salad. Okay, but here's some market formula for making math or what market conditions are out there. So that's another thing. Don't start making math. OnlyFans, hot dog on a stick. It's all off limits. Okay, stay in your career. But new listings plus fewer pendings, it equals a softer trend. And so when people have been calling me and saying, Ryan, I want a pre-listing appraisal, and I'm like, look, I'm really backed up. I'm as slow as a snail right now and getting stuff out the door. If you are ready to list, that sucker on the market. Don't be waiting for any appraiser unless you get Lightning Joe to do it. But like, get on the market because we're losing temperature by the week. Not in a fear-based thing. Sometimes if people need to clean up the house, they need 3 months, that's fine. List when you're comfortable, but man, if you're ready now, pull the trigger. You know what I'm saying? Dude, what's going on with price reductions? So if you notice, we have about 700 reductions. It pushed about 800 last. You know, has anyone noticed? We're actually starting to see fewer listings hit the market. Okay? We crested for the year. In midsummer, we see fewer listings, and we're kind of on the downtrend for the rest of the year now. Okay, so that's happening. But a lot of price reductions. And so I think the question becomes, is this normal? Is this not? You know, what's going on? I've been making this visual every week, though, and what I recommend, kind of find it on my socials, sometimes it's on my blog, but, you know, as we look, what percentage of active listings have had a reduction in the region? About 49%. And so during your listing presentation, and before you go live, you talk to your seller and say, look, about half of all active listings have had a reduction, okay? We've got to price it right. Does that make sense? Is this a powerful visual?
Yes.
I would milk it and use it to your advantage, right? Because for that seller who's like, man, everything's going bigger, you're going to overpay. Like, we're not in that marketing. Stop. Okay, and speaking of, I don't always overprice, but when I do, I expect the Bay Area unicorn, right? It's like, how many times have you heard that in your career, right? And so, here's the thing, how much cash is in our market? What percentage of sales are cash? Does anyone know? A little more than 10.
15.
About 15% or so. That means 85% of the market is financed. And so sometimes your seller is aiming for this mythical unicorn who's going to swoop in and pay cash. You're like, look, it is a market where 85% is financed. Aim for the financed offer. Okay, does that make sense? Because sellers are kind of distracted by an unrealistic list price, and then buyers aren't having it, right? Do you like that one? So they're like, woo, look at that. It's, the market is hot. They're living in the past, like Puerto Rico and things out of my, they need to get up to speed. So here's a cool visual. Let me show you how to read this. Okay, this is how much are sellers reducing the price. This is for the whole region. This is about 1 week old. I'll update this soon. But look, there's very few sellers. Let's see, about 6% of sellers have reduced the price 10,000 or less. Okay, so when reductions happen, like here's 10 to 25,000. About a third of properties that had a reduction are going 10 to 20. Okay, it's good. When you have that $790,000 listing, and the seller's like, why don't we try 77? You're like, no. The market would be, biting if it was overpriced by 3,000. But you can see, they're more substantial. Now, people ask me sometimes, what's the average amount of the reduction? I won't pull that stat. You know why? Because I'm going to argue all day long with real estate agents in my inbox that, whether it's right or wrong, the average doesn't matter. If you're overpriced by 200,000, who cares what the average is? Okay? Right. If you're overpriced by 10,000, it doesn't matter what the average is. You need to get that down just a little bit. I talked with an agent 2 weeks ago who reduced the price by 14,000, and they immediately had $2. Okay? The number's going to differ. Okay, but what is this number right here? This is, I think, a powerful number. So I thought at least someone would say 37.8%. Okay. 37.8% of states have had a price reduction. Okay, so this shows that properties that get reductions get results. If you're sitting on the market, you need to reduce. But what I would ask here is, what about the whole rest of 62.2% of pendings that did not get a reduction? What is it about those? Are they priced too low? Is it location? Is it condition? Is it the accessory unit? Is it the pool? Pay attention to the pendings, because that shows you what are buyers interested in now. Okay, obsess over this. But here's sort of what it looks like. Pendings that got a reduction. Look, very few pendings reduced the price less than 10,000. You can see 4.7. About 7.5% of sales or properties had a minor price reduction before getting into contract. Look, 2.4% reduced less than 5,000. Okay, 98% of the market's reducing. Okay, but just don't buy. Just buy down the rate. Don't reduce the price. Have you guys heard that? Yeah. Yeah. Is this a good idea today?
No.
No. Okay. Here's my recommendation. Talk to your sellers about the need. Work with your favorite loan officer and spell out the numbers. What would it look like if we gave a credit? How much is this credit reduce the rate? That gives the seller power. Okay. Talk to your buyers about the potential for, in case you get to negotiate, what would a rate buy down look like? That can be powerful for their mortgage to all of a sudden be, instead of 5.5, be in the 4s. That makes a difference. Okay, but here's the deal. This narrative, it's very much favoring sellers. It's all about keeping the price high, right? Isn't this what builders are doing right now? They're like, yeah, we're just going to keep our prices the same, and we're going to buy down the rate. That's wonderful, but guess who might not be down with that? Buyers. Right. Okay? Buyers are looking and they're going, okay, I see, value menu item number 1 has a rate buy down and keep the same price. But what I'm really attracted to is value item number 3 with chicken McNuggets, Diet Coke, a rate buy down and a price reduction, right? I know which one I'm looking for, right? And so be aware of that. Be careful of your narrative in a shifting market. I don't want you to be sort of preaching a different sermon that's falling on deaf ears as the market has changed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like there's just a disconnect with narratives. People are so obsessed with prices and sellers. There's a bias in real estate towards sellers. It's just true. Time to shift that mindset, because buyers are like, it's our turn. Okay. So this house, I don't know if you saw it, but buyers are going to be more sensitive about location and conditions. Okay. So that was that joke a few months ago. People were like, still 500,000. And I don't think that meme would even work today. So, but really, when you take that listing, don't discount the power of being on a busy street or back into high voltage towers or having some sort of adverse issue. Really look at the comps and think, what are buyers going to be this feature or not paying? In a market of 4,000 listings today instead of about 2,200 last year, guess what stands out like a sore thumb? The stuff on busy streets. Okay. So and inflation, right? You know, it's like you get a raise, but and here's where I'd encourage you. Actually, let me ask you: who has cut expenses in life, in your personal life? Right? And sometimes, you know, I know there's like 10 people here, your car says, you know, baller or whatever your license plate. You would never admit that, but
That's the closer.
Yeah, the closer. In real estate, there's this flashy image, but you know what? Guess what? We're in a market where there's less deals happening. It's a perfect time to cut expenses and then deploy some of those expenses in the market. Okay, stand out. Okay, my business credit card last month was $500 to $600. Look where is I pay it off every single month because I want to make big parents proud of me. Okay, I just use it for convenience, but I cut out just silly stuff. I'm getting less boba, and I spend so much on food, and it's like gone are those days. But guess what? You lead by example. Do you know who also needs help with that? The people who are going to be buying. Okay. Now here's the thing: you're not going to go online and you're a top producer, and you're not going to be like, how I beat inflation by cutting out politics. Like that's not the look. I'm just saying that in the nooks and crannies of life, this is where people help and try to do it yourself. That's my sermon. But are price reductions normal? I would say this. Here's from Altos Research. This is another one to bookmark. Price reductions are twice of what they were last year. Okay, this was a weird year, and they are historically above normal levels. I'm not so concerned about the level of reductions right now. I'm more fixated on like, wow, look at how much that went up. Okay, here's the good news though. Sellers are going to catch on, and now is the perfect time as we start to see fewer listings. Hopefully that will sort of help adjust a little. Okay, and I can throw in a COVID joke here and say we're going to flatten the curve in 2 weeks, right? Sorry. So, but all it takes is one buyer until he backs out. Right? But on a serious note, in your escrows, get your disclosures done up front. Get your pest report done. We're in a market of don't surprise buyers with stuff. Okay, let full disclosure. Okay, buyers are more picky about getting into contracts and staying in contract. Let your sellers know, and so do your stuff up front to shorten that time frame in the escrow for uncertainty. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, here's a good point, and then I have a few more graphs, and then move on with some unsolicited advice. But I would say this: don't focus on prices too much. Okay, I'm seeing this mistake happen right now, and it's happened in markets in the past. In real estate, it's all about what are prices doing. I can share all these metrics, but tell me about prices. I'm so not interested in prices right now. I'm way more interested in volume and things. But here's what I want to say. This is 2005. This is when the real estate market burst in 2005 in Sacramento. Now, these are 3 different price metrics you can see down here. Over the course of 1 year, prices were down by anywhere from 4 to 6%. Now, when a real estate bubble bursts, that doesn't really sound like a burst, right? 4 to 6%, you're like, no big deal. If my stock only went down by 4 to 6% in the last few months, I would be rejoicing. Okay, not a big deal. And so sometimes people in real estate are like, look, prices are hardly touched. But then look, during the same time period, prices went down 4 to 6%, volume dropped 42% from this month in August to August 2006. And so if for people focusing on prices, they could totally miss the bigger trend. And so when I'm talking about today going, hey, there's been a significant drop in volume, prices, like the trend isn't showing up there too much, okay? This is a big deal. Or inventory went from 2.6 months to 8 months, even though prices were hardly down. And so do you guys see what I'm talking about? Let's stop obsessing over prices, start focusing on other stuff because that's where we're going to see the trend. Okay, now your sellers, they're going to want to hear about prices. I'm not saying to not pay attention, but just approach it. But multiple offers, the freshest stuff out there. 37.7% of pendings over the past 2 weeks have had multiple offers in the region. Okay, I'm going to show you Sacramento County. Do you think it's higher or lower? Lower.
Higher.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Yeah, okay, yeah. Lower prices means that it's going to be higher. What about Placer County? Higher or lower?
Lower.
I'm just messing with you guys. Okay, so these numbers, 27%, or you have 37, 43. They're no longer 60 to 70% of the market getting multiple offers. And so it's sort of like that rejoicing when there's one offer, which is the bulk of the market right now. Think about Placer. 70% of pendings have one offer. Okay, and we rejoice in that and go, this is one. Okay, it's not a Christmas with 20 presents, but man, there's one, and that is beautiful. Or Kwanzaa or whatever. Okay, let's be equal. So, okay, I'm gonna. Well, I don't know. Is this too geeky? Are you guys with me here? Because I have a cool visual. I just don't want to get lost. Can I stay with like 30 seconds on this? Okay. I pushed this up, and someone said, okay, let's skip on then. Okay, this only looks at multiple offers. Okay, and what I want to say is that multiple offers today, it's way different from what it was last year. Okay, so first of all, in July last year, 65.8% of sales had multiple offers, and it's 47% now. Now, I showed you pending sets. The pendings are lower right now. Okay, makes sense. Okay. But look at this. Selling at the list price, properties with multiple offers last year, 3.8% sold at the list price. And what do we notice this year? More selling at the list price. So you can have multiple offers, more are going to sell at the list price. Well, look at it. Selling below the list price, hardly any sold below last year. What do we notice today? Yeah, 37%. And so that's what an agent said, hey, we had 5 offers and the final price was lower than the list price. And so prepare your sellers. Statistically, we see about half of all properties with multiple offers sell above the list price. It doesn't guarantee above. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fascinating way to look at the market. Should I keep making this, or is this like, forget that? Okay. So, what is this number?
117,552.
Yes, exactly. You win. You win. John will give you the prize later. These are people who left California last year, right? So, not a huge percentage of the state, but this is something you want to continue to focus on. It's to be determined whether this goes up or down. We'll see. I think kind of like we had a lot of migration during the beginning of the pandemic, and things will maybe slow down here. But look, last year we had 0.3% of the population, decline, and then the year previously is 0.59%, and so we're actually kind of starting to see less of an issue. Okay, we'll see where that goes. But here's what I want to say. Check out, as you position your business, what are the areas that are growing and shrinking? Sacramento shrunk by 0.1%. Same with the Bay Area. Here's Roseville, though, grew by almost 2,200 people last year. And so when you look at migration stats, you wonder, where are people moving? Where are people going? Those are clues in how to focus your business. Do you know the number one sender from, to Placer County and to El Dorado County? Do you know where that comes from? Sacramento County. Okay. Almost, I think a lot of times we're so focused on the Bay Area. It's the unicorns. No, it's Sacramento County. And so as you think about who are people going to be, looking for, less of this population, I'm just saying, reflecting that people are thinking about that. I'm not judging. We need to do something about this. But there's a lot of issues in Sacramento County where people need. Okay. And so just be aware of that. You can look, and I'm just going to skip through some of this stuff. Skip through that. But affordability issues. Look, people are just trying to afford cool for their kids. They're trying to buy diapers, trying to flip homes to make this possible. I feel for this couple. Let's pray. Stand your hands. No, just kidding. But here's I have 2 slides on this, and then I'm going to close with and talk about this like this. Okay, these are the number of sales in Sacramento County in June, and you line up all Junes previous years. And what do you notice about this June compared to previous 20 years?
The higher ones, yeah.
Okay, it's, one of the higher ones right up here. Okay, it's higher than 1 year,
Okay.
right? Is that what we're trying to say? Okay, so I would say yes, it's higher, but it's basically lower than any year besides 2007. When I show you July, what do you see with the number of sales in Sacramento County? Similar dynamic, actually same dynamic. And so this is sort of one of those things where a lot of the stats are actually looking really normal. This is not normal. And so when we see buyers begin to contract and pull back, then it's like, okay, let me engage and let me figure out how to be successful beating those buyers that are playing the market right now, okay? Here's a different way to show it. Basically, we're missing over 2,000 sales this year. You can check that out later. But here's sort of my money statement. Since the reality is we're poised to see fewer sales ahead as buyers struggle to afford the market at higher rates. My advice, work harder than ever before. Expect to see fewer deals on your desk, cut frivolous expenses, beef up your marketing and service, and focus on the deals that are happening rather than the ones that aren't. Okay? If I was going to think any thoughts in the morning and do my miracle morning or whatever like your routine or lack of routine is, I would be feeding myself some of this, while I'm eating uncertainty salad. Okay? I think that's really, really important. But sometimes unexpected things happen. Nobody saw Pete and Kim coming. I don't think anyone can explain it, right? But the reality is people are asking for predictions all the time. I don't remember anyone last year that literally predicted that mortgage rates would go 3% to 6%. Try to find something online. That prediction was not around. I don't know that we know who the next president of the United States is going to be in 2 years or who's going to run for office like this. Okay? There's so much that we don't know in life, whether mom jeans are going to be popular next year. Is my son going to get a mullet or not? I'm worried, right? These are the big issues in life, okay? And when it comes to housing, we're living in the midst of change. We don't sugarcoat anything. We look at the bad, the good, the ugly, but we look at cycles. And this is my last visual, I promise, okay? So this is a Freddie Mac price index from 1975 onward in Sacramento. And what do we see here? We see an up, and then a down, and then an up, and then a down, and then a up, and then a down, and then an up, and then a down. We're going up 5 more years. No, okay. At some point, prices will go down. Isn't that what normally happens? Sometimes in real estate, our narrative is that prices only go up, and then I would look in history and go, it's true that they go up, like you win as you keep properties. Look at that. You become a winner. This is adjusted for inflation too, okay? So you become a winner over time, but there's these valleys. It's sort of like marriage or raising kids. Not everything is going to feel like a honeymoon. There's going to be hard times, and you go through those issues, and you come out better, hopefully, right? But here's the thing. Okay, what I want to say is that nobody knows the future for certain. Prices will eventually go down, whether that's this year or next year or the year after or day after. It doesn't matter. In real estate, the only thing that does matter is who are the buyers. I would spend all your time masterminding that. Who has incentive to buy, sell, rent, and invest, regardless of what prices are doing. We obsess over prices. We build our business on this positive narrative. That positive narrative doesn't work anymore. You can't log on Facebook and go, the market's super hot because people are going to say, right? Okay, so think about how to build your business, but be aware of the rhythms of the market. Rhythms are very normal. I'd say 2005, though, what happened here is not a new formula or template for the future. And that's the thing, because it's so fresh in their minds, they're like, this is going to happen, we're going to go down like 50%. And look, the market corrections before were not 50%. Not every market correction is going to be the same. People could have been in 1990, prices started to go down. Around 2002, people could have been like, we're going to correct, we're going to go down, and we're going to go down between 20 and 30%, because that's what market corrections do. But then we went up for 3 more years, went down by 50. Right? And so, look, markets are like children. They might have similarities with DNA, but they're totally different. Again, my 18-year-old and 16-year-old, night and day, introvert, major extrovert. Oh my word. I'm so worried when he gets his license, like, what are gas prices going to be? Help me. Send some appraisals. Okay. A couple quick thoughts, though. Sometimes people look at this, and I would say identify the people who are like, market is cresting, and I feel like it's the top. Identify those people who want to sell. But I think the struggle is, where are they going to go, right? Now, if they move to a lower price market, fantastic. What's the play? Okay, people moving up, people moving down, people doing 1031 exchanges, people moving from the Bay Area to Sacramento, from Sacramento to Texas and Idaho, people buying their first duplex, first-time buyers who don't care at all about what rates were they're going to buy right now. Okay, so think about those things. But for someone who says, I'm going to sell and I'm going to rent, and I go, well, typically when markets decline, they're probably going to decline for about 5 to 6 years. That doesn't mean it's a free fall for that time, but let's say, how long are you going to rent? That's my honest question. I don't care what you do. Just be aware of trends. Okay, and then I'd say, where do you want to be? You guys know Mike Gobi out of the Roseville office? He's just such a stud. I love what he says, that, if the market's going to go down, where do you want to be? Where do you want to write it down then? What does your lifestyle mandate? We push prices so heavily in real estate. It's all about what prices are doing. No, it's all about lifestyle. Where does your lifestyle mandate for you to be? You need to move the kids into a different school district, or you need to move up, you need to move down. You have aging parents, you need to downsize, you need to upsize, whatever the issues are. Where is your lifestyle going to move you? That's the play, okay? And I'd say, so where do you want to be? And the Redfin's chief economist is calling this a correction. I think we need time to see the trend fully. But I'll be more comfortable with that language. If we start to see the dip, 30% pendings, and we go down to 40 and 50, we're going to be like, hey, this is definitely bigger than a seasonal issue already. Can't sugarcoat that, but we need some time, okay? I wrote a post there. You can check that out later. But some unsolicited advice. I would say be patient. We need time to see the trend. We're living in the midst of change, okay? And for some of you, you're just going to have to chill out and live in the tension of the moment. We don't know the future. Isn't that like the rest of life, though? You know what normal stats look like so you can spot out. I'll be parsing that every single week on my blog. Get intimate. That sounds weird. Get intimate, yeah. With the stats, okay? Know the stats well. Okay, identify who has incentive to buy, sell, rent, invest in today's market. I'd say stop watching stats like crypto. Okay, like reading articles and unsubscribe from YouTube channels that are stressing you out. Okay, here's what I want to say though. Take your mental health seriously. You're like doom scrolling all day about housing. You need to chill out. Okay, I'm 45 years old today, and if I'm lucky enough to live for 30 more years, you know what's going to happen? I'll probably go through 2 different cycles: up and down, up and down. Okay, if the down cycles are 6 years each, then I'm going to have 12 years where I'm going to have to decide, is my happiness and joy and contentment based on how good the market is, based on how much money I'm making or not. Okay, it's a real challenge, and I think so. We look at today's market and go, you know what? Who am I going to be? And that's like some life coach stuff, but this is where the rubber meets the road with real estate stats, and we get to decide who are we going to be in today's world, and are we only going to be satisfied when the market's booming like crazy steroids over the past 2 years, where it was easy to make a boatload of money. Okay, so take your mental health seriously. I'd say there's a few more. Expect to work hard because some clients or many clients are in the market. Okay, we're uncertainty salad right now. Okay, if something changes the trajectory, then maybe rates go down or something changes. There's confidence in the economy. Great, that can change the sentiment. Don't be afraid to change what you say about the market from week to week. Okay, don't get locked into your one narrative, okay? And the last thing that I always end with is be generous and authentic. I think the world is starving for people who are genuine, right? The world is so tired of that guy or gal with, that red Ferrari, the douchebag vibe. Like we want people who are kind and genuine, who put others' interests ahead of your own, who are authentic. That's exactly who I want to work with, okay? And work with and be around. And so be that type of person. When the pandemic happened, I think it brought out a lot of crazy people. Jim Gaffigan, he had a comedy special on Netflix that came out, and we're not going to talk about politics, but he said that it was like a coming out party for insanity. And I agree. I'm like, but I love it on Facebook. I'm like, man, some people have just become such psychos, whether they're red or blue, and it's like, push that stuff to the side and decide who you're going to be. Right? I was showing up at dinner a couple years ago, and I was angry every day because of politics on Twitter, and I had to go through and just block stuff because I thought, this is how I'm showing up to my teenagers, and are they just going to remember Dad complaining about whatever some person did at a certain address? I mean, who cares? Okay, so that's me. I have one weekly post. This is me on my socials, but I hope that was helpful and interesting, and that's it.
It was.
Anyone have any questions? That was a lot. So.
It was a lot. I told you, your brain was going to hurt them. Yeah.
I was just curious, out of the buyers that have kind of slowed down pace, are there any stats at all that indicate not that they were making a choice to hold on, but they were priced out of the market?
There's no stat like that, but I guarantee you that that's what happened to a lot of people. Because as soon as mortgage rates rose substantially, especially above 5%, we hit this inflection where people just backed off. It's sort of that slide, $600 or $700 per year. Like over the last 6 months, if a mortgage is costing that much more per month, it's a total game changer. I've heard that story countless times. But yeah, there's not a neat graph to show that, but I think that's sort of the X factor for sure.
I have a question. On your experience, where are you seeing the motivated buyers, the 70% in this market? Where are they? In yours?
Well, so I mean, I think first of all, every price segment is contracted, even above $1 million. Like there's no price segment that's immune from interest. Okay, and so everyone's feeling it. But I mean, there's a lot of deals happening. First-time buyers, we're seeing a slight bit uptick. I think it's kind of everyone for now. You know, there's not one dominant group. I haven't seen a dramatic rise in cash in our market. Something I'm going to be watching. Our investors are sort of salivating to advantage. I haven't seen that yet. So I know that's the narrative, but you know, so I don't know. I mean, we're kind of, you know, in the middle of it, and we'll know more as time goes on.
Any other questions? I will. Everyone, thank you, Ryan, for coming in. Sponsored by Yvonne, so thank you, Yvonne, with Fidelity. So she's our sponsor, and have a great day, everyone. Go sell the 70%.
It's just written, so sometimes it's right. But when you read the commentary, that's a good point.